Alright, today's video is going to be a little bit different. Instead of a caliber comparison or any direct firearms talk, we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. I stumbled across this case and I had to cover it because it was so eerily similar to mine. So let's get into it. I want you to imagine being sent to federal prison, not for hurting anyone, not for owning an illegal firearm, not committing an act of violence, but for being annoying to the government. Yeah, sounds a little extreme, huh? But yeah, this is a real case and it's happening right now. And you should be concerned. Anyone who cares about freedom, First Amendment, and yes, even the Second Amendment too, this case matters to you. And before you say I'm exaggerating or I made this up or maybe I'm twisting around facts, look the case up for yourself. I put it right here. It is United States versus Richard Lee Rogers. Sorry about that. It's in the 9th Circuit Appellate Court right now. The case number is 25-1267 and 25-4001. Now, I'm not sure about the and part because I'm still kind of new at how to read these files, but it has what looks like two case numbers. So I'm giving you both of those. I don't know if it's like one case number put together or if it's like two separate case numbers. Anyways, don't take my word for it. Read the case yourself and come to your own conclusions. Before we go any farther though, I do need to talk about OnlyHeckleFans at Shopify.com, where you can help support this channel because obviously my channel got demonetized, likely permanently. I mean, we'll see. I'm still fighting to get my monetization back, but it's still gone. And that is how I pay my bills right now, and that's how everything gets supported. There you can purchase cool morale patches, t-shirts, hats, beanies, just freedom stuff. Really, really awesome freedom merch that goes a long way in supporting this channel. And for those of you that have already bought stuff there, thank you. I appreciate it. Honestly, I couldn't keep this fight going without you. That's what separates me from the MSNBC person that got the whole channel demonetized because he didn't like my speech. Alright, so let's get into it. What this is all about is Richard Rogers. He made calls to the Congress office and the FBI. These calls were political, they were angry, and they were repetitive. But here's what matters. Even the government's own witnesses admitted the calls were not physically threatening, there was no weapons involved, no plan for violence, no violence uncovered. There was even no recording of the actual threatening call. And allegedly he called so much, it would have been easy just to hit record on one of these calls to put the final nail in the coffin. So to me, it feels like kind of a stretch here. Yep, so he was still convicted. So let's slow the video down and let's be very clear about the facts here. This way you know exactly what's going on and you're just not getting misled like the rest of the public did. Here's what Richard Rogers was actually accused of. The government charged him with threatening to injure or murder a member of Congress, based entirely on phone calls. They also charged him with harassing telephone calls, not based on violence, but based on volume and persistence. Now here's what the court proceedings and the appeal actually shows was proved. Let's take a look at the other side of the script. There was no evidence presented that he ever made any attempts to harm anyone. There was no evidence presented that he ever took steps towards violence. There was no evidence presented that he ever presented a weapon, a plan, or follow-through. In fact, the alleged threat was never recorded. And I mean that. The government never produced a phone call with him saying, I'm going to hurt someone. What they did present was speech, phone calls, political statements, repetitive complaints of dissent at the government. And for the harassment charge, the law requires that these calls be solely to harass. The word solely matters here. But through the case, Richard consistently stated that he was engaged in political protest, that he was trying to get the government to address his grievance, and he was being civil disobedient. Even the FBI witness acknowledged that the calls were political in nature, not physically threatening. So what the jury was asked was not whether or not Richard committed violence, but did the government find the calls excessive? In other words, the crime wasn't what he said. The crime was that he didn't stop saying it. And that's where things get dangerous, because the First Amendment isn't in place to protect polite speech. The First Amendment is put in place to protect uncomfortable speech, protected speech, protests, dissent, all that stuff that the government doesn't like. And I think we can all agree It's not so much what somebody says that we're all rallying around, it's their right to be able to say it. Freedom isn't tested when speech is popular or easy. It's tested when speech is irritating and annoying and hard to agree with. That's when the First Amendment's tested. Not because it's easy to get along with. The First Amendment's tested when it's not easy to get along with it. And I don't feel that because you're annoying should be criminalized. And I'm pretty sure everyone pretty much agrees with that. And when dissent becomes impossible, everyone's rights, including the Second Amendment, is already on borrowed time. Our ability to file our grievances and talk about what's wrong with something is our ability to stand up for what we believe in without having to go to violence. And this is where it should make everyone uneasy, because the government's case was based around solely the number of phone calls, not what was actually said on the particular phone calls. The government was allowed to introduce a massive amount of phone calls, not because it contained violence or threats of violence or anything like that, but to make Richard look like he was unlikable, unreasonable, and basically to smear his character in trial. And that's the same thing that happened to me. They presented a whole bunch of videos, not because I was committing crimes or telling people to commit crimes, but because those videos shine my political light as being unreasonable or a radical. The volume of speech itself became the evidence. Not the threats, not the danger, annoyance. Literally, that's what went in front of the jury. Was Richard annoying? If the government can criminalize speech based on how irritating it finds that speech, then the First Amendment stopped being a right and it started being a permission slip. And if you think that this has nothing to do with the Second Amendment, think again. Every gun law starts with speech, every restriction starts with a narrative, and every loss of right starts with silencing the opposition. If the government can label political speech as harassment, and it doesn't have to ban guns, it only has to ban the people that won't shut up about it. Today, it's phone calls. Tomorrow, it could be emails, or maybe even posts on YouTube or Facebook. Who knows? This case never really was about safety. It was about control. And just like in my case, the punishment didn't even stop with prison. Oh, no. After the leftist media got a hold of his case and started reporting on it, he lost his business, relationships broke apart, and everybody walked away from him because who wants to be associated with a terrorist? His wife even tried to keep things together by running a fundraiser. Yeah, and that didn't even work because no one showed up, because who wants to support a terrorist? And that's how they covered the story. That there was some sort of Minnesota man out there, not Minnesota, Montana man out there, just causing a ruckus and threatening to kill people. And honestly, this is the part that drew me into this story. I'm going to just come out and say it. Is because it hit so close to home, because they did the exact same thing to me. After I was incarcerated, the media came after me and got my family demonetized, or I should say my wife demonetized from my YouTube channel. Overnight, my main source of income was taken away. No warning, no like, hey, your husband did these things, so next month we're going to talk about going away. Just on, off, just like that. She was literally sitting in a hotel on a visitation with me when all of a sudden her phone started blowing up and everyone was like, hey, they just did this story about you. And she was on the phone with me and started crying like, oh man, they just demonetized the channel. I'm not sure how we're going to go forward. And we instantly went from being able to just thrive as a normal family to now she's in survival mode. And yeah, seeing this happen to this guy and him not having 185,000 people backing it up, I had to cover this story. Because they didn't just hurt me, they hurt my wife, my kids, my entire family. It was ridiculous, and I couldn't imagine being out on an island all by yourself while this was happening. Yeah, there's not a whole lot we can do to help this person, but just knowing that it's happening to other people, because that was something I would say in my other videos too, like while I was incarcerated and stuff, I'm like, babe, this is pretty bad for me, but can you imagine if I didn't have the audience behind us, how completely different this would have been? Yeah, that's pretty wild. But before I wrap this up, I want to let you know that the story isn't ending here. I'm planning on interviewing his wife either later tonight or tomorrow so we can get the real story, what actually happened, what they're going through, and not just headlines, and not just talking points. Yeah, I did what I feel was a pretty good job covering this and pulling up as much information as I could and piling it all together and bringing up what I feel you guys would want to know, but we're going to hear it from her. Let's take away all the interviews. Let's take away all the headlines. Let's take away the key talking points. Let's hear it from the source at exactly what happened. And if you'd like to help support the channel, there's two really good ways to do it. One, I have my Cash App right here if you wanted to make a donation, which don't worry about that. It's not a big deal if you don't, because that's for the extremist donators, right? The ones on the super awesome watch list. Now, there's a way you can do it without costing you any money. So what you do is you go down in the description. There's an Amazon affiliate link. All you got to do is just click on that link. Just by clicking on that link, doing the Amazon shopping you were already going to do anyway, I'll kick back for it because you came there off my channel. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the interview tomorrow.